Well, this evening I'm live on 2 platforms at the same time here, so I apologise if I get a bit confused as to what's going on, but I'm live on Facebook, I believe, and I'm live on YouTube. Going live on YouTube is something that's a bit different for me. This is only the second time I've been live on YouTube, so if I get confused, if I miss your comment, I do apologise, but hope you're well. Whatever it is you're doing, whatever time of day it is. I know I've got a bunch of people in the US watching, a bunch of people in Brisbane, a bunch of people all over the place. So if you're in the US, good morning. I think it's bright and early in the US. If you're in Brisbane, good evening. And wherever else you might be, g'day, hope you're doing well. But the whole idea for tonight's live video is just to answer some questions, because I've been getting a bunch of questions from a whole heap of different arm wrestlers over the last week. And I want to be able to answer everybody's questions, but I can't get to them. So, g'day, I can see my dad's just tuned in. I can see Tim Graham's tuned in. G'day, gents. Hope you're well down there in New South Wales and South Australia, respectively. But yeah, so tonight's Q&A is all going to be about answering the questions that have been sent through to me throughout the week that I just haven't had time to actually respond to in text form. But also, if you've got any questions, you can shoot them through during the live, and I'll try to answer them as well. So what I will do, kick it off. I've got a bunch of questions. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 questions that are pre-written down here to answer tonight. So the first one is from Paul Richardson. So Paul Richardson's actually a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu competitor, I guess, from the UK. So Paul, thank you very much for sending your question through, and seems like a pretty generic question when you at first glance, but at first when I thought he was an arm wrestler, I thought, oh gee, that's a basic question to ask. But Paul, when I dived into your profile, I saw that Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu was your thing, so it makes a bit more sense. But Paul asked, what is the best way to train for arm wrestling? Obviously, very broad question, but Paul, like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, mate, no doubt the best way to train for any given sport is to really spend as much time exposed to that sport as possible. So arm wrestling is no different. The number one way that I recommend, and the way that I've endeavoured to try to get as the biggest priority in my arm wrestling, has been to simply get on the table as often as I can and grip up with other arm wrestlers. The reason I believe arm wrestling to be the best form of training for the sport is because you learn a lot about the instincts of the sport, okay? It's certainly not a strength sport. A lot of people mistakenly think that arm wrestling is a strength sport. Obviously, there are strength components to the sport, but more importantly, arm wrestling is a combat sport, and therefore, experience on the table, knowing how your opponent's behaving, and what effects that subsequently has on both your own access to power and your opponent's access to power, is really critical. So for me, the number one way to train for arm wrestling is to simply get on the table and arm wrestle with as many people as you can. Outside of the world of arm wrestling against other people, one of the best and most beautiful things about the sport of arm wrestling is the fact that you can become a world champion literally in your garage. It's a very unique sport in that you can invent all sorts of crazy ways to train as long as you're targeting the hand, as long as you're targeting the hand and the wrist, because where a lot of people that are first introduced to the sport naturally think that arm wrestling is about biceps and just the ability to do that, arm wrestling is quite the contrary. It's all about the hand and the wrist and being able to gain leverage over your opponent. So anything that involves cupping the wrist, rotating the hand, as a basic sense, Paul, would be the number one way to train for arm wrestling. But Paul, thank you very much for that. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, you guys are an incredibly technical sport as well, so I really enjoyed my exposure to that. But that was awesome. So Paul, thank you very much for that first question about what is the best way to train for arm wrestling. I'll pause and say good day to everyone who is tuned in at the moment. Thank you for everyone else who's tuning in, both on YouTube and on Facebook. It's interesting to see which I'm going to get more viewers on. I've actually got more on YouTube at the moment than Facebook, which is surprising to me. But anyway, keep it going. Alright, so guys, just for everyone who has just come on, tonight's Q&A is all about answering the questions that have been sent to me throughout the week. A lot of people send me messages via the Facebook page, and I just don't have the time to get back to them in text form. So we're doing a live Q&A instead. But if you do have a question for me on anything, whether it's arm wrestling or promotions or t-shirts, whatever, send it through and I'll answer it for you. But the next question that I've got prepared is from Martin McClay in the United Kingdom. G'day, Martin. Hope you are well, mate. Thank you for your question. And he asks, what is the best exercise for the hand and wrist? And now, Martin gave me some background on it. Martin's 6'5" and 124 kilos. Martin, I tell you what, I would kill to be 6'5" and 124 kilos. Can we swap places, please? Because I honestly think that tall arm wrestlers are the most difficult arm wrestlers on the planet to deal with. I would absolutely kill to be a tall arm wrestler. Not that short arm wrestlers don't have a lot of power in the game. I think that short arm wrestlers have more power. They have an easier start point in arm wrestling. But I believe that tall arm wrestlers have far more options in the long run, far more control available to them. And I know personally, when I competed in the 80 kilo class, I was pretty much always the tallest. There was only one occasion when I wasn't the tallest in the 80 kilo class. And that was a luxury for me. Now that I'm competing in the 90 kilo class, all of a sudden at nationals, I was below average. I couldn't believe it. I was below average for the first time. David May's telling me he's 6'5". My goodness, that's crazy. All these tall people, my goodness. Anyway, so in answering your question, Martin McClay from the UK, mate, at 6'5" and 124 kilos, the best exercise for the hand and wrist. Look, one thing is that arm wrestling is a windy path. To quote Devin Larratt, there's many ways that you're going to get to the top of the sport in arm wrestling, and many ways to I guess, skin a cat or whatever the saying is. I don't know, but anything involving the hand and wrist, for me, my favorite thing is I think about the hand and its priorities in strength as the further away from the elbow, the higher the priority. So I think the fingertips are actually incredibly important because you can lose your wrist but still have control like that. For instance, take for example the way Justin Bishop pinned me. He lost his wrist, but he kept his hand. He had control still. So fingers are incredibly important. People like Jordan Davis, he has incredibly long fingers and he has tremendous back pressure and control as a result of it. So I would say my favorite way to train the hand and wrist, Martin, is with a plate. I get a 10 or a 15 kilo plate, depending on what mood I'm in, how heavy I want to go, and I actually strap my hand using an arm wrestling strap to the plate itself, and then you can have the weight distributed over here. You can have the weight distributed mostly over there, depending on whether you want to work on supination or pronation. So for me, strapping my hand to a plate is a really awesome way to train, and you can just get lactic acid. It takes the need to hold onto it with your thumbs out, and you can really work till your lactic acid threshold is absolutely blowing. So for me, strapping your hand to a plate allows you to use all the angles, and it keeps your hand nice and flat, which means the pressure's right out in the fingertips, translating to great control on the table. Awesome stuff. Hope that one helps Martin McClay. But like I said, there are lots of different ways to train your hand and wrist. There's no shortage, whether it's rolling handles, whether it's just the rotation with a strap over the thumb, all sorts of different things. Now I'm going to pause and answer a live question here. Now Tim Graham, what does he ask? Tim Graham from South Australia, an arm wrestler, a good mate of mine, has asked, what do you think, in your opinion, is the best way to force a hook against a solid top roller? Tim Graham, mate, I laugh at that question because Tim's someone who's in the same weight category as me, competes in the same tournaments as me, and I think last time I beat Tim, I top rolled him. So Tim, I will give you the answer on a technical sense as to how I think that someone like yourself could force a hook against a solid top roller. Alright, and I've got another live question coming in from YouTube. Let me just write this one down, and then I'll get back to Tim's. Oh, what did that question say? How to get strong without a trader partner. Sorry guys, just pause. How to get strong, just writing down these questions. Strong without a partner. Alright, so Tim. The question, Tim is someone I know has quite a long arm. Again, I would say that tall arm wrestlers have more options when it comes to control. Tim Graham, you're someone who can use that height to your advantage in terms of the hand setup and the supination, etc., I believe that hookers really need to use a static sort of post in the wrist during their setup. Now, the reason we do that is that if you have look, okay, you're a long arm hooker, so it's a little different. You may not need to post so hard because your arm's so long. Anyway, but traditionally speaking, what I would say is a posted wrist. Now, I use this to defeat Mario Tambakis at Queensland's. Mario's top roll is really dangerous, and I actually didn't want to try to out top roll Mario, so I used this exactly against Mario Tambakis at the recent Queensland State titles in the final of the 90 kilos. And what I did, I posted my wrist and I dropped my thumb. I make my thumb really, really, really low. And what that does to the top roller who's trying to be all high, they're at the front of the pad, they're all being tall, and I get on the front of my elbow, wrist like that, and I make sure my hand's in the center of the table for the referee, so they're happy with where I'm positioned. And what that does is it makes my webbing height about 1.5 inches, 2 inches lower than the top roller. Now, keep in mind, I'm already at the front of the pad, so the referee can see that with my wrist position, I can't make my arm any taller, and therefore the only option is for the top roller to come down to me. Now, for the top roller to maintain their low hand wrist position that they're wanting to, which we're commonly seeing in the Australian arm wrestling scene at the moment, is they have to slide their elbow back. Now, the more they slide their elbow back, the more their bicep becomes exposed because their arm angle is getting lower and lower and lower. Okay, what you can then do is, again, always really keep your thumb low as that hooker as you're setting up. Get that strap on, and really, for me, this knuckle here really is the key. I need to feel on that knuckle that I am on the bone line of my opponent's wrist if they're a top roller. If I don't feel that knuckle being solidly hooked on that bone line, like if this wrist bone here of my opponent is somewhere out along this pinky, I'm in trouble as a hooker. I'm not going to get it forced. But if I've got that bone sitting right there against the knuckle of that pinky, I'm confident, bang, I can force a hook. So, Tim Graham, hopefully that answers that question. Getting bucket loads of questions coming in now on YouTube and on Facebook. So, guys, I do apologize if I missed any questions, but I'll do my best to answer them all. So, I'm going to get back to some of the questions that were sent to me prior to the live. One from Matt Hoff, who is a promoter from the company White Knuckle Promotions in Western Australia. He's asking me for thoughts on promotions for a strategy for tournaments, because basically he has a tournament that he's planning over in Western Australia next year and wants to know my thoughts on promotion strategies. For me, promotion strategies are simple. We have to focus wholeheartedly on the fact that we're trying to promote to non-arm wrestlers, not just arm wrestlers. So, Matt, in answer to your question, it is all about 2 months prior to your tournament, you need to start telling the story of the tournament. You need to start telling the story to the people in the local area. Now, it depends if your market is, if you're trying to get a local audience or you're trying to get an online digital audience for a bigger brand, will kind of change the way that I would suggest you market as well. But most importantly, the way to market is to storytell. Storytelling is where all the power is in gaining an audience. Okay, at the end of the day, arm wrestling is not a particularly entertaining sport for people who aren't already arm wrestlers or aren't already somehow intimately involved in the sport. So to get that crowd of people watching, to get the brand sort of recognition that everyone's after when they're promoting, you need to tell a story. So for me, if you've got a super match, easy. Tell a story of the individuals, what the match means to them, how they're training, how much pressure's on them. Get them to tell an emotional story in the build-up, well edited, and drip feed that out constantly in the lead up, and you'll get people that are natural villains, you'll get people that are natural heroes. The crowd will love whoever they love, and they'll be watching. Not for the arm wrestling, but for the story of those two people. So for a tournament, the way to tell a story for a tournament, in my eyes, is again, pick 1 or 2 big names that are going to be there and focus a little bit more on the story of those guys. But focus on your brand and your culture within the tournament itself, what it would mean, the history of the tournament, how prestigious it would be, where it would set people if they were to win. Like you've got to build emotion into your promotion strategy in your marketing, because that is the only way through solid storytelling that can happen. Like you may have seen I'm going to be I've endeavored on a potential promotion. It's obviously all just preliminary at this stage, where I'm looking at bringing the Kazakhstan team to Australia next year to take on the best Australians. So the top 10 Kazakhs against the top 10 Australians. That's that kind of thing. And I'm going to be flying to Kazakhstan to film a documentary on the Kazakhstan team for this, so I can show the world the inside story. Kind of like the documentary Pulling John with Alexei Vovoda against John Brzezinski. They went to Russia to film Alexei. I'm going to go to Kazakhstan. I'm going to film a documentary, how they train, what it means to them, the pride they have in their team, the patriotism they have for their country. Film the same thing from the Australian perspective and build it all up to this big crescendo where it'll be a free live event. Now, I encourage that as well. I encourage you to have quality live viewing, because I do believe you lose a lot of your audience. Like if you're relying on a well-edited post-production video to be your marketing, you're going to miss a lot of the momentum, because simply videos will get out and the results will get out, and people will know that the results have already happened, and they won't be so much interested in the sport when it gets to it. So the key is you've got to embrace the marketing through telling a story first of all, and then embrace the live audience. Encourage people to go live at the tournament and share your content as far and wide as you can in the live. Sure, do a post-production video as well, but the live video, there's a lot of power there. So long-winded answer to that question, Matt Hoff, but hopefully that helps you with your promotions for White Knuckle and what you're doing over there in Western Australia. I think you guys are great. And Tim Graham, thanks for that comment there. I will look. This is my big project for 2018, is to make this outstanding. I'm 100% on going to Kazakhstan and filming a high-end Pulling John style story about the Kazakhs, how they train, what it means to them to come to Australia and represent Kazakhstan and take on Australia's best. So it'll be an absolute thrill. I can't wait for that one. So, all right, I'll go back to an online question now. Let me check on YouTube. There's been a bunch of questions there. Okay, let's have a look, from Paris Trevetti. He's got pain that restricts his training during the rest of the week, especially during pushing exercises like push-ups and bench press. Please suggest something. Okay, Paris. Yes, mate. I know what you mean. I'm going to suspect that Paris is in his first 12 months of arm wrestling, and that pain is kind of like a toothache that goes all the way from the hand up to the shoulder. It's a debilitating thing, and yes, I remember when I was in my first 3 months of arm wrestling, I couldn't hold up a cup of coffee and drink it. I was drinking coffee out of a straw. So it certainly will kill your bench press. It will kill any other strength activities you're doing. If you're someone who's working in a manual labour sense, you're going to be struggling. But Paris, yes, the key is rehabilitation. When you're training, you got to stop going so hard. What I mean by that is stop trying to pin each other. Don't thrash for pins. Don't hold on with side pressure. Focus on the hand and back pressure. Stay healthy. Stop trying to pin each other. Just work on back pressure and hand control, and you won't get sore. G'day to a few other people that have just logged in as well. Brent Phipps down in Byron Bay. Matt Morrissey, one of my old schoolmates. G'day, guys. Thanks for tuning in. We're live Q&A on arm wrestling tonight. So next question I'll answer was actually from Maz Morris, who is in Brisbane. David May. I don't miss the pain either. Matty Morris, actually, look, I got to answer a question from Matt Morris. He's just asked me a cheeky question here. He's asked me, if I grow a moustache, will I be good at arm wrestling? Matt, you've got a far better beard than I've got. Look, this is my best effort here on my chin. It's very, very poor. My moustache is the only thing that grows with any sort of decency. So, yes, I can safely say that moustaches make arm wrestlers a lot stronger. I always do better when I get a moustache. Anyway, on to the next question from Maz Morris from Brisbane. She asked about my ketogenic diet that I did the other week. So, for those who didn't know, I actually did a ketogenic diet for about 2 weeks. The reason I did a ketogenic diet was I witnessed my dad lose a lot of weight. My dad went from 96 kilos to the point where he was able to compete in the under 80 kilos at nationals, and he did that within 3 weeks. He had to do a 6 kilo dehydrate, so he effectively lost sort of 10 kilos of fat in about 3 weeks, and he did it on a ketogenic diet. I have one other friend that I've seen do something very similar. Aaron Davis went from 105 kilos down to about 78, and then he dehydrated, tried to get to the under 70s, didn't quite make it, but the point was he went from 105 to 78, and he did that in 8.5 weeks on a ketogenic diet. So tremendous, and Aaron Davis still walks around at about 75 kilos these days, so he's kept the weight off. So the ketogenic diet really does burn a lot of fat, and I wanted to see what it would do for me if I jumped on a ketogenic diet for that sort of period of time. I love my sugar. I've always been someone who is a really sugar addict, and therefore I struggled. But once you got off that once you got through that first sort of 3 days of the ketogenic diet, it was pretty easy. The sugar cravings disappeared, and I lost about 5 kilos. I'm slowly putting it back on now that I'm back on sugar. I've got a cup of cordial here, all that sort of stuff. But I would say that Maz's specific question was, what keto diet did I use? Maz, the answer to that is ketogenic diet. It basically goes off macros of 75% of your calories should be coming from fats, 20% should be coming from proteins, and about 5% from carbs. So basically eating meat, green leafy vegetables, seeds, things like that, good healthy oils, coconut oils, that sort of stuff. You can get away with some dairy. Can't have milk, there's too much sugar in milk, but things like cheese and cream and all that sort of stuff. So that's basically what I was eating, Maz Morris. Awesome. All right. Now let me check YouTube. Lots of people asking questions there. What do we got? What have we got? Aglo is asking if I'm competing in Malaysia, the 101 tournament in January. I wish I could, mate, to be honest. I just can't afford to get there at this time of year. I know Devon's going to be there. It's going to be a killer tournament. Zil Fadley's putting on big prize money, all that sort of stuff. But unfortunately, I just can't do it. Next question from Aka Est on YouTube. Ryan, is high rep training superior in comparison to low rep? Good controversial question there, Aka. High rep for me has always been my preference. I know there's been plenty of people that have used low repetitions with heavy weights and made it to the top, so I'm not here to say that low reps won't get it done, but I am saying that what has worked for me has been ultra high reps. I've been someone who I go with the high rep approach because I don't want to injure myself. Every time I've gone heavy, I feel like I'm more likely to injure myself, and I feel like lighter reps increase the neurological efficiency of the movement at a better rate than the heavy ones. Also, I've always focused on, my game in arm wrestling has always been about countering my opponents. It hasn't been about overwhelming them with power. I like to disengage my opponents from their access to power. So for me, light reps in all of the little hand movements have been my favourite way to train by far and away. So hopefully that answers that question. Let me check. Any more questions? What have we got? One more on YouTube, is it? No. Oh, good. I can go back to my... I've got 2 more questions on the questions from the week that have been sent through. So let me answer that. One was from Terry Presson. Terry, thank you for this question. It was asking about single arm hangs. You guys may have seen that I've got a goal. I want to do a 10-second single arm static hang by Christmas. I'm up to 4.5 seconds today. So I've got a few, 2 weeks or something to get another 5 seconds. I don't know if I'm going to make it, but I'm going to give it my best shot. And Terry asks, what straps am I using? Apparently the straps he's got are rubbish. It's cutting into his hand, all sorts of stuff. G'day to my nephew, Jackson Wadwell. He's watching. Jackson Wadwell, you animal. This guy's a beast. You should see his boxing. Go and check him out on YouTube and Facebook and Instagram, Jackson Wadwell. I had a spar with Jackson when he was 14, and he knocked me around. And just a couple of months ago, now that he's 17, I went and watched him train, and there is no way I'm sparring with that guy again. Anyway, back to the question from Terry. Terry asked, what straps am I using and where did I get them from? Terry, I wish I could give you a more accurate answer, but unfortunately I can't. I was given them by a friend, a fellow arm wrestler in Rudy Manure, and I believe they're rigging straps from the world of trapeze. So that's trapeze artists. Rudy used to be an acrobat and a performer himself, and so he's collected a whole heap of equipment over the years from different things. So that's where I got my straps from that I'm using for my single arm heave. They are very comfortable, but it's alright. Being uncomfortable is not that bad. It might just toughen up the hand and all that sort of stuff. But anyway, on to the final question that I have, guys. So last call for questions on the live viewers as well. If anyone has a question, shoot it through now and I will do my best to answer it. But other than that, I'll end with this last question from, let me see if I get this name right, Thomas Emilio Silva Ebensperger. There we go. From YouTube. So I didn't actually check out this guy's profile, so I don't know where he's from, but with a name like Thomas Emilio Silva Ebensperger, it's not local, I'm guessing. And he's asked me, he said he's injured at the moment. He's a top roller. He's always been a top roller, and he's injured to the point now where he can't top roll, and he's having to force himself to learn to hook, and he's lost confidence on going back to his top roll. Do I have any advice? Thomas, I think it's a good thing that you're injured on your top roll, mate. I think that getting some balance in your game is a good thing. There have been a few arm wrestlers on the planet that have exclusively had one move and made it to world elite level. So it can be done being a one-trick pony. You can just be too strong on one move. But I do believe, unless you're just the flat-out tallest arm wrestler on the planet, there's going to be someone out there with a better top roll than you. And when you meet that guy with a better top roll than you, you're going to need to be able to know how to force him inside and get him off his pronation. So it's a really important thing. And look, we see people like Devin Larratt, John Brezang, incredibly well-rounded guys that can pull inside, outside, they can press, they can kings move, they can hold, they can hit, they can do all the different angles. And because of that, those guys are going on to be known as the greatest of all time. So my encouragement to you is embrace the fact that you're injured and use that as an opportunity to lay the foundation on making that hook awesome. And then when the top roll comes back, you're going to have two weapons instead of one, and it's going to be all happy days. So Thomas Emilio Silva Ebensperger, thank you for the question. I hope that one helped. And I've had a couple of questions come through on YouTube, so you guys have snuck that one in. Let's see, from the Cosme one, asking me, how would you go about beating someone with long levers and a big hand like Nicholas Nanestad with strong pronation side pressure and biceps? For me, it's all about to beat someone like Nicholas Nanestad. For me, I could relate to that by how I just beat Jordan Davis at the national championships. Jordan is someone who towers over me. His arm and hand is as long as Devin Larratt's, and Jordan's someone who walks around at 85 kilos at the moment. So he's got a very, very long arm. I do believe he has the longest arm in Australian arm wrestling. Even amongst the guys that are taller than Jordan, in the heavyweights, Jordan still has the longest arm. So how do I beat Jordan, and how would I suggest you beat someone like a Nicholas Nanestad? It is very difficult for someone with a long arm. It's not so bad, but someone with a long hand, it's incredibly difficult to force them into a hook. The reason is because they can back out the door so far, because their fingers are out here, sort of thing. And when their fingers are out here, they can still control, and they can run a long way away from you. So it's really difficult to force them in. So if someone's got a really long hand, like a Jordan Davis or a Nicholas Nanestad, the key is you need to be able to be willing to give your wrist away about that much, but you need to have finger control. So there's a difference between losing your wrist like this and losing your wrist like that. Okay, here, no control. The only thing is a full flop press, but a good top roller will turn your palm up, and then there's only lift and there's no finish. So the best way to prevent the top roller from being able to turn your palm up is to have, when you lose your wrist, don't lose your fingers. So this strength right here, and that's those plates that we were talking about earlier tonight, the plate curls that are massively important. I just want to say a quick g'day to Elliot Crew, Taryn Broad and Matt Hoff, who have just tuned in on Facebook. G'day guys. Matt, just so you know, I did answer your question in the live early on. So once this live finishes, about halfway through it, I reckon if you go back, you'll find the answer to that one. But anyway, guys, thanks for tuning in. So yeah, back to that question. It's all about keeping the fingers locked, and it's once you've got the fingers locked, you just got to have this really tight pec and this really tight shoulder. It's exactly how Justin Bishop pinned me. I remember I was taller than Justin. I had a longer sort of hand than Justin, and I took Justin's wrist, and Justin just went bang to there, kept his pec tight and his shoulder tight, and just drove. Kind of like a Toddzilla, what's his name? The guy that often beats Nicholas Nasta from the same country. I'm having a mental blank. Anyway, you guys know him, who I'm talking about. Nicholas Nastad's main rival over there in Sweden. Cameron Smith's asked me, how do I make my hits stronger? Yeah, thank you, Shane Carey. Frode Haugland, that's who I was trying to think of. How do you make your hits stronger? Cameron, I believe that a lot of people talk about speed in arm wrestling. A lot of people say that a hit is all about speed. I'm going to say that speed isn't such a factor like many people believe. What is more important, like there is reaction time, but speed and a hit normally comes from how much stronger your hand is than your opponent. Like if you have to go through someone's power, and you have to go through someone's power when they've got some hand control. If they're able to bend their wrist, you got to go through their power. If you're able to totally deny someone's access to power, then all of a sudden you're going to look really fast. And it's not because you're actually quick, it's because they've got zero access to power, and therefore you're pinning like a couple of kilos at best. You're not pinning big force, you're not pinning a 60 kilo static hold, you're pinning 3 kilos of no access to power. So the best way to have a hit is to have a strong hand. My answer there. David May, how much do you think pec strength affects your arm wrestling ability? David, it's a good one. When I'm training, my pec never gets sore. My pec is never tender, anything like that. But every time I compete in a tournament, the next day I go, ooh, my pecs are tender. So that tells me that arm wrestling training and arm wrestling competitions are very two different beasts in the muscles and the way that we use it. And I have no doubt that pec strength plays a big part in side pressure. I don't, however, believe that pecs are the weak link when it comes to side pressure. Because I'm someone who always focuses on the weak link, and I believe that the weak link to side pressure is more often than not the connective tissue at the base of the flexors right into the elbow. That's my personal weak link. I can drive harder with my pec than that can handle. So for me, pec's not that important yet. Not until I can get this conditioned to a point that it can handle my pec. But if this is conditioned, then yeah, pec strength's huge. People like Craig Touye, when Justin was out here, he was telling me how amazingly strong Craig Touye is in his pec strength. That he's got huge bench press, and his pecs are like rock. He said like touching Craig Touye's pecs like hitting granite. So I believe that pec strength plays a very, very big role, but only as long as the weakest links in the connective tissue in the elbow for side pressure can withstand what the pec's generating. So, David, that would be my answer. But I would say pec strength and rear delts both play a really important role in side pressure, and they both need to be quite balanced. Good stuff. Alright guys, you guys are keeping up with these questions. They're coming through just in time before I wrap up. So I've got another one here from Silvio Cedio. Have you ever thought of making separate videos related to arm wrestling only? So the ones interested in the sport can access directly the juicy information. Yes, Silvio, I'm already doing it, and I can let you know that if you want to see just specific arm wrestling talk, arm wrestling training stuff, jump on my YouTube channel. I have a playlist there that is very much specifically just arm wrestling, so you don't have to watch me playing with my kids, don't have to watch me mowing the lawn, all sorts of stuff. Yeah, Cameron Smith, he's going to go. See you later, mate. Off to school. I must be in the US morning time over there. But yes, Silvio, that's the way to go. If you want to see my stuff, just jump on the YouTube and you'll find all my specific ones. Kyle Howarth, g'day Kyle Howarth, one of the 80 kilo legends of the sport from WA has just tuned in. Kyle, you come in right at the end, mate. Hope you are doing well. Kyle Howarth, if you've never seen Kyle Howarth, he's the most unassumingly, amazingly strong guy in Australian arm wrestling. He looks like this gentle soul. He's not going to particularly be dangerous, and then you get in a hook with him, and then you immediately regret everything that you just thought, because that dude can hook. Seriously, he just took out Ryan Scott, one of our super heavyweight legends of the sport, in a hook, in the straps at a comp in recent weeks. So, Kyle Howarth, g'day mate, hope you are doing well. And Adrian O'Dwyer is just tuning in as well. So guys, I've answered a bunch of questions tonight. I hope you've got something out of that. I am going to wrap it up here. So thank you so much for everybody who sent through questions prior to tonight. Thank you to everyone who has asked a question during tonight's live. We've gone live on both Facebook and YouTube. So I hope wherever you are that you're watching, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for all the support, whether it's been on Instagram, about the t-shirts, about the promotions. I really have to say thank you to everybody who's been helping me on this journey, because as you all know, I'm doing this case study thing. I'm trying to make arm wrestling a career. I'm trying to build a brand of entertainment focused on arm wrestling, and it's all possible only because you guys are watching. So thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions, please send them through, and I'll do this again next week, and we'll answer some more questions from there. Alright guys, take it easy. And yeah guys, I will see you again next time. Alright, now I gotta work out how to end the videos on both these things. Alright, let's end YouTube first. You sure you want to end the stream? Yes.